Introduce Dr. Sanjay K. Sharma. He is a very well-known author and editor of many books, research journals, and hundreds of articles from last 20 years. Dr. Sanjay K. Sharma has 17 books of chemistry from national and international publishers and over 64 research papers of national and international repute to his credit. Presently, he is working as Professor and Head, Department of Chemistry, JECRC, University, Jaipur, India. He is a Fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry, member of American Chemical Society, and International Society for Environmental Information Sciences, Canada, and is also life member of various international professional societies, including International Society of Analytical Scientists, Indian Council of Chemists, International Congress of Chemistry and Environment, Indian Chemical Society, etc. Dr. Sanjay K. Sharma is also serving as editor-in-chief for Rasayan Journal of Chemistry and is also associated as editorial member for more than 20 international research journals, including the prestigious Green Chemistry Letters and Reviews, Ultrasonics, and Ultrasonics Sonochemistry. Now, over to you, Professor Dr. Sanjay K. Sharma.
Good morning, one and all. And first of all, I must thank Madam for giving such a nice introduction and introducing the theme of today's webinar. I must also congratulate the organizers of this webinar, especially the authorities of the college, the management, the principal, the faculty members, and all the people who were involved in organizing this webinar from last many days. So I must express all my gratitude for all of them. I also welcome all the participants who are connected through this webinar or who are listening me, viewing me right now through YouTube or some other platforms. Today's webinar is, we are organizing in that time, which is a tough time for not only the country, but for the whole world, for the whole mankind. It is very tough time. Pandemic COVID-19 is there, and everybody, one and all, is facing the consequences of this widely spread virus. And we all are locked up. We are in home. We are at home. We are doing our work from home. And the normal life is not as such, which we are habitual to live. But in all this unfortunate situation, in all this tough time, I believe this tough time is coming with an opportunity. Opportunity in the sense, it is a good opportunity for the researchers, for students, for teachers, for people who are involved in active research, active writing, the people who are having a list of pending works, pending, list of writing, reviewing the manuscripts. So it is a good time. I must say it is a golden time for those who are willing to excel in the area of research and writing. So focusing that opportunity and keeping this view in mind, in today's webinar, I will try to address most of the questions who everybody has in their mind. There may be some silly questions, there may be some tricky questions, there may be some tips, and there may be some such happenings which we knowingly or unknowingly we do, and we don't know its repercussions and its future aspects and effects. So without wasting the time, now I am sharing the screen. The organizers, am I audible to all? Organizers?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Audible? Okay, so
Yes.
now I am sharing the screen and starting the webinar. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, because the theme of today's session is research publications, skills, ethics, and misconducts. Look, there are three words. There are the three main words in this theme. One is a skill, another one is ethic, and third one is misconduct. If we understand all these three words, I think it would be very easy for all of us to write a good research paper and to have better chances of publication of your paper in some reputed journal. So let us start with the question, what is research? Actually, it is a big question. We never ever think about it seriously, and we just start researching. We just start behaving like a researcher. But most of the people don't know what is research actually. Research is a careful investigation or inquiry, specifically through search of new facts in any branch of knowledge. It may be arts, it may be commerce, it may be science, engineering, law, management, whatever field you have. Or it is an original contribution, experimentation to the existing stock of knowledge, making for its advancement, right? Or it can simply be defined a task of searching from available data to modify a certain result or theory. Only these three parameters can define the research. Whatever you are doing, whatever type of research you are doing, I'm sure your research will be lie in any of these three wide areas. Now, if we broadly categorize research, how many types of research? So, in my opinion, and in broadly, research can be categorized into two categories only. One is pure and fundamental research. This research is based on the question, why things happen. Why things happen is a fundamental question. And the answer of this question is fundamental research or pure research. Another category of research is applied research, which is based on the question how things happen. So, if any research you are doing in any area, if you are pursuing your research, either you are answering the question why things happen, or you are trying to answer the question how things happen. It means either you are doing fundamental research or you are doing applied research. Nothing else other than these two. Now, another question, what makes people do research? The most prominent, most acceptable, and most widely answered statement is desire to get an advanced degree, desire to get a MTech, MS, PhD degree, or desire to solve unsolved and challenging problems, desire to get intellectual joy of doing creative work. These are the reasons what makes people do research. Desire to be of service to the society, desire for innovation and recognition through research projects, and desire to be successful in career. All these things are responsible, are motivating, are encouraging an individual to make ready to pursue research in their domain area. Now, whenever you start any research, you must have some good research objectives. Especially for the PhD scholars, I also want to emphasize one more thing. In this session, many research scholars, many early career professionals, many teachers are connected right now through this webinar. I am sure you are aware about the latest guidelines of UGC. There are two important guidelines. The number one, UGC has introduced a paper in coursework of PhD named Research Publications, Ethics and Skills. This is the paper introduced in PhD coursework recently. Second notice, second guideline of the UGC. UGC have recently instructed all the universities and all the institutions of higher education that if at the time of appointment or at the time of promotions, if we found that most of your papers are copied by your self-citation or your self-work is again and again presenting in different papers, so those papers will be considered as ethically misconduct. Those papers will be considered as excess self-citation and will not be considered for any appointment and promotion. I am sure you all were aware about these two recent happenings, recent developments, recent guidelines of UGC. So we will discuss it further in the lecture. Come back to the objectives of research. If when we design some research, it must have some good objectives to gain familiarity or to achieve a new insight towards a certain topic, to verify and test important facts, to analyze an event, process or phenomena, to identify the cause and effect relationship, to find solution to scientific, non-scientific and social problems, and to determine the frequency at which something happens, something occurs. So you may have any number of good objectives, good research objectives, but every time you please be sure that your objectives can be validated or verified only through research publications. And that's why research publications are so much important, so much critical in the career of an individual, in the career and growth of an individual research scholar or teacher or early career professional or anybody else who is involved in active research. Means whatever you are doing, it would be validated or verified only through your publications. So your publications must be very sound, very clear, very precise and published in good journals, right? Now, another question comes, why we publish? As I told you just few seconds back, that without publication, you cannot validate or verify your results. Because publishing is one of the necessary steps embedded in scientific research process. It is indispensable. It is indispensable for a research. So, what to publish and what not to publish? It is another good question, an important question. What to publish means whatever new or original work you have done, any reviews of particular subject and area, manuscripts that advance the knowledge in a particular scientific area, all these things should be published. But the more important is the question, what not to publish. So my dear friends, what not to publish is the reports which is of no scientific importance, which is not scientific significance. I am sorry to say, many people just publish the papers just for increasing the number of publications without any significant scientific importance. You please don't publish like that. Out of date work, if a work is outdated, don't publish. Duplication of earlier published work. A work which you have published earlier, you please don't duplicate it, you please don't publish it again and again. Because remember, anytime if someone found you that you are duplicating your own work repeatedly, you will be penalized badly in so many ways. We will discuss later on how it can impact your personal credentials. And what not to publish is incorrect results. If your results are not correct, you kindly don't publish those results. Now, why research publications are important for an individual? There are some points I can discuss in some bullet points why research publications are important for an individual. First of all, it is quite necessary and indispensable for your professional growth. Whatever you are doing, if you are a scholar, if you are a student, or if you are a teacher, if you are a researcher, your professional growth is very much dependent upon your research publication. Second, to gain name and fame. Third, to get intellectual satisfaction. It is another very important thing. So many people, especially people at higher academic level or at higher position, they publish their research for their intellectual satisfaction. Then for networking with peers, then for research collaborations. Believe me, if you publish a good paper in a good journal, you will have a good opportunity to collaborate with not only national but also international researchers. Project grants and funding. I believe you all know whenever you go for a project funding or project granting, you have to give the details of your publications. And on the basis of your publication, on the basis of your credentials, your grant or your funding will decide. Then recognition and awards, then personal fulfillment. These are the things for which a research scholar, for a research individual, publish his or her research publication. And ultimately the happiness. Happiness is the final goal, which is only achieved after achieving all these points mentioned above. So these are the bullet points why research is important, research publications are important for an individual. But at the same time, research publications are important for an institution as well. I am sure right now many institutional heads are listening me, many authorities of different colleges, universities, and professors and my senior colleagues are with us right now, and I'm sure they will agree with me whatever points I am going to mention why research publications are important for an institution. First of all, it enriches the profile of faculty and students of an individual institute. The profile of your institute very much depends upon your faculty's profile, upon the profile of your students. Second, institutional ranking. Institutional ranking, you all know about NIRF, NAC, etc. All these rankings are so much important, so much critical for an institution. And research publications have very critical and important role for all these institutional rankings. Then for national and international accreditations, then for enriching its intellectual property. If the faculty and students are contributing good research papers, it is actually enhancing the intellectual property of that institute. Networking with peers, research collaborations, project grants and fundings. Again, I'm repeating, to gain good grants, to gain good project fundings, an institute needs good publications from its faculty as well as its students. Recognition and award, institutional fulfillment, and overall reputation of the institute. So I'm sure one and all will be agree with me that all these points are important for an institution so that research publications are very critical for an individual as well as an institute. Now, if you observe these points, there are so many points are common which are important for an individual as well as an institution. And I'm sure it is the point where the benefits and the goals of an individual matches with the goals and benefits of the institutes in which he or she is serving or with which he or she is associated. So if an individual is writing good paper, if an individual is publishing good paper, it is obviously enriching the credential of that institute as well. So here through this webinar, I request all the leaders, all the academic leaders listening me, you please promote and motivate your students and your teaching fraternity, your teachers to contribute good research papers in good journals. So it would get a great impact in due course. But my dear friends, there is no way to get experience except through experience. There are many questions in everybody's mind, and the answer of these questions equip you, make you ready for the experience, for getting the experience and for getting the success in due course. The questions like how to select a good journal. You have done a good research, you have done a wonderful research, but you don't know how to select a good journal is a big question. What is peer review? What is DOI? What is citation? These are the questions, especially budding researchers, research scholars, research students, or early career teachers. They might want to know the answer of these questions. What is impact factor? What is CITE score? There are two things, impact factor and CITE score, and both the terms has their own significance and importance. I will discuss in later stage. What is indexing? What is H index? What is I10 index? And how these two indexes are related with your applications and your personal growth and your personal credential. How to write a good research paper, and what are scientific misconducts. I think these are the main questions which cover all the doubts and apprehensions, clicking, blinking, and shouting in everybody's mind, everybody who is involved in the active research, and especially the research scholars who have just started their research career. All these questions are very important. So when we start writing the manuscripts, there are three types of manuscripts possible. One is research paper. Obviously, it is focusing on some specific problem with some specific methodology and presents the original findings and conclusions of your research. And second is research review article. Review article is basically focusing on some specific topic, reporting the previous work done, and it would be a nicely drafted compilation of previously published literature related to some specific theme or topic. Now, my dear students, I advise you all, especially to the research scholars, that whenever you choosing any topic, whenever you start researching in some topic or some area, the very first stage is literature review. If you review the literature genuinely, if you review the literature intelligently, you can write a wonderful review article. And my dear friends, the importance of review article is as equal as to a book. If you are writing a good review articles, it can be very important. It can be a guideline for future researchers. Okay, and the third type of manuscript is book. So review article is having a bigger canvas than a research paper, but a smaller canvas than a book. So whatever manuscripts you have or whatever manuscripts you see in your daily life, all these manuscripts are only of these three types, either it is paper or article or book, right? So now as an author and editor, I would like to share my contribution so far, whatever I have contributed so far. I would like to share with you over 100 research papers in national and international research journals, 20 books from international publication houses, including Royal Society of Chemistry, CRC, Taylor & Francis, Wiley, Springer, etc. Edited 38 books as series editor under Green Chemistry book series of Springer. Many invited lectures, keynote speeches in national and international conferences, and revised hundreds of research papers of international research journals. My dear friends, this is the last point. The last point, reviewed hundreds of research papers of many international journals. It is the actual experience I have. I have seen 1,000 types of manuscripts, 1,000 types of mistakes, drawbacks, good things, bad things, points on which we reject the manuscript, point on which we accept the manuscript. All those things is the real experience which I want to share with you through this webinar. And I will try my best to share whatever I have learned in last 20 years. These are few books which I have contributed so far. Green Chemistry for Environmental Sustainability from CRC Taylor & Francis. A handbook of applied biopolymers from Royal Society of Chemistry. One more from Royal Society of Chemistry. Again from CRC Taylor & Francis. One more from Wiley. One more from Springer. Again from biosurfactants. One more from Springer. These are the books which I have contributed so far. One more from Wiley on Green Chemistry for dyes removal from wastewater. Again, a book on bioremediation from CRC Taylor & Francis, which is recently published in 2019. Again, from CRC Taylor & Francis, Green Chemistry in Scientific Literature, published in 2019. And I am thankful to CRC Press for including me in the Spotlight Editors and Authors section. I am thankful to them. These are few glimpses which I want to share with you. A quick review. I have been involved in editing as a book series editor for Springer's prestigious book series, Green Chemistry for Sustainability, in which 39 titles have been published so far, contributed from authors of different corners of the world. I am fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry. I am thankful to them for awarding me fellowship. These are another few clips, and this is the book which is going to be released this year from Elsevier, UK. So this is all about whatever I have contributed so far. Now let us start today's talk. Why I have shared all these my publications with you, not because of letting you know about myself, but also making you aware about how can you share your findings, how can you be popular and you can get name and fame by just publication, by just good publication and good research. My dear friends, there is a picture and there are two jars. In one jar, there are two beautiful fishes, and in another jar are so many fishes. If anybody asks you to choose one jar, I'm sure most of you people will select the jar in which two beautiful fishes are visible. Everybody wants a beautiful picture, a beautiful glance. So if we focus and conclude about this picture, I must say we should always focus on quality over quantity. My dear friends, if you publish two very good papers in SCI index journals or good impact journals, I am sure those two papers are better than 100 papers of other scholars who have published all those papers in low grade journals and no impact factor journals. And I'm sure you have understood my point, that don't go for the numbers. Don't publish just for increasing the numbers of your publications. Don't go for a rat race. You just focus on your research. Try to contribute good papers, good quality papers in good journals. Now, the question is how to select a good journal. Many students and many people ask me this question in webinars or in personal interactions or in the session, in the consultancy sessions, which I have, which I do for different organizations and different institutions. This is a very common question, how to select a good journal. The selection of the journal actually depends upon its scope, its prestige, its circulation, and its frequency of its publication. The journal should be peer reviewed. It is very important. Peer reviewed or referred. A journal should be referred or peer reviewed. The journal should be well abstracted and indexed in international databases. I will discuss both these things in later slides, that what is peer review and what is international database. The journal should have a good impact factor or and good site score. It is very important factor whenever you decide a good journal. The journal should have a good impact factor or good site score or both. Having a good SJR means SIMIGO journal ranking. It is another very important term. We will discuss it later on. So, and most importantly, be aware about predatory journals. Look, I am sure you all receive many emails in your inbox on daily basis just for invitation to contribute your research paper in XYZ research journals. And if you submit a paper, next day they demand the money, and the very next day your paper is published online. There are many cases I have observed. Many people consulted me about this problem. So you should be very much aware about predatory journals. So it is important to know what is predatory journals and how can we identify those journals. So before continuing that discussion, first of all, I would like to share about most popular quality databases. The most popular quality databases are, first is SCI, Science Citation Index, which is a database of Thomson Reuters. Second is Scopus, which is from Elsevier. Then Embase, then PubMed, then Biosys Citation Index. These are few popular international databases. If the journal in which you are going to submit a paper, if the journal is indexed in some of these databases, I am sure that journal is a good journal. DOAJ, Directory of Open Access Journal, especially for Open Access Journal, it must be indexed in DOAJ. EBSCO, Chemical Abstracts Services, ChemI, Bio1 Abstract and Indexes. These are the few very important and popular databases, indexing databases. So, in identifying a good journal, it would be very helpful. This information will be very helpful. You must see that that journal is, whether it is indexed in any of these databases or not. Now, come to the question, what is a predatory journal? Predatory journal was actually, this term was coined by Jeffrey Bell. If you just browse an internet Bell's list, you will get a list of the journals which are predatory. This list is a compilation of those journals which are fake journals, which are scam journals that send phishing emails offering open access publication in exchange of payment without providing any robust editorial or publishing services. They have been discredited by the scientific community, and because they are not indexed in standard databases, any research published in them is effectively lost. Mind it, my dear friends. So if when you are going to submit a paper in any journal, you please search that journal in the Bell's list first. It should be your first step. If that journal is included in Bell's list, it means that journal is a predatory journal. And if you publish your research in that journal, your research will be effectively lost. It will be finished. The motive of these journals is financial gain, and their modus operandi is a corruption of the business model of legitimate open access publishing. So predatory journal is a very serious threat for the scientific community and scholars, especially young scholars. They are in quite hurry, or sometimes they are ready to publish anything, whatever they write, they are in very hurry to publish it and submit it to some predatory journal. And in long run, they face the consequences of publishing their research in such journals. ISSN, you all know, it is International Standard Research Number. It may be PISSN and EISSN. PISSN for print journals and EISSN for electronic journals. Now the point comes, what is peer-reviewed or referred journal? Peer review process actually involves subjecting the author's scholarly work and research to the scrutiny of other experts in the same field to check its validity and evaluate its suitability for publication. A peer review helps the publisher decide whether a work should be accepted. There are three most common types of peer reviews are: number one, open peer review. In open peer review, author knows the reviewer and reviewer knows the author. Both the party knows each other. I know who is the contributor, and the contributor knows that I am going to review his manuscript. So in that case, it is an open peer review, and which is not very fruitful in judging the quality of a paper. Because if author knows reviewer and reviewer knows author, the quality and the sincerity of the review process may compromise. Second is single blind peer review. Single blind peer review is a better process than open peer review. In this type of review process, author knows the, reviewer knows the author, but author does not know the reviewer. Again, I am repeating, reviewer knows the author, but author does not know the reviewer. It is called single blind peer review, and there may be some apprehension in this peer review process also. It may be somewhere authors complain so many times about injustice with their manuscript through this review process. And the third and the most popular and most significant and most reliable peer review process is double blind peer review. In double blind peer review, author does not know the reviewer and reviewer does not know the author. Both the party don't know each other. It is double blind peer review, and the good journals offer this type of review process. They practice this type of review process for selecting or accepting good manuscripts. Then another question, what is citation? First of all, I request all the people connected through this webinar. I am sure you all are having your Google Scholar account. If you don't have, especially the research scholars and students, I request you and advise you all to please create your Google Scholar account today itself. Because whatever you publish, its citation record will start building there in your Google Scholar profile. And your Google Scholar profile will be your face actually. Anybody if want to collaborate with you, anybody if want to see your research, they will go to your Google Scholar account to see your credentials and to see your publications. Now, what is citation? Citation actually is the way through which you tell your readers what certain material in your work came from. It including the title of work, information about author, page number, publisher, date of publication, all these important information involved is the citation. And the citation analysis is different thing. Citation analysis involves counting the number of times an article is cited by other works to measure the impact of a publication or an author. That's why I am advising you to make your Google Scholar profile, because it would give you insight of your citation analysis. How many people are citing your work? How many people are following your research? How many people want to collaborate with you? It all depends upon your citation analysis. Now, another thing is DOI. Actually, whatever I have discussed in last slide, the information about a title, author, topic, journal, publication date, publisher, all this bulky information can be given by a simple string of numbers, letters, and symbols. It is the best way to locate or to search your paper on internet. And this is called DOI. Let me give an example. This is the example of an DOI. The red colored text is the text representing the DOI assigning authority, which is crossref.org. The next light blue color numbers are the numbers indicating the name of the journal and the information of the journal. What is the journal? What is its ISSN number? What is website? Whatever it is. All the information related to the journal. And the next number in dark blue color is the information about your paper. So be aware that not all articles have a DOI. So, but most of the good journals and most of the good publications assign DOIs to its articles. So DOI is a combination of two types of words. One is prefix and another is suffix. Prefix is meant for the journal's information and suffix is meant for your paper's information. In simpler words, prefix is going to say about the journal in which your paper published, and suffix is the identity of your research paper. Now, another big question, what is impact factor? Many of you already know its answer. Many of you don't know its answer. And most of you are confused about how to calculate the impact factor and what is impact factor in fact. So, Journal Citation Reports is an annual publication by Clarivate Analytics. Earlier, this report was published by Thomson Reuters. Actually, this report is based on the data of Web of Science, the collection of Web of Science, And on that basis, the journal citation report gives impact factor for a particular journal. This term was devised in 1950 by Ivan Garfield. Impact factors are calculated yearly for those journals, for only those journals. Mind it, for only those journals. Those word is underlined. For only those journals that are indexed in journal citation reports. It means another question arises here. The journal which are not included in journal citation reports, are they not good? Are they not of good quality journal? It is a good question. I will answer it later on. So the annual JCR impact factor is a ratio between citation and recent citable items published. So how can we calculate impact factor of a journal? Look, the impact factor of a journal is calculated by dividing the number of current year citations to the source items published in that journal during the previous 2 years. Again, read these 2 lines, please. The impact factor of a journal is calculated by dividing the number of current year citations to the source items published in that journal during the previous 2 years. Note that 2017 impact factors are reported in 2018 and they cannot be calculated until all of the 2017 publications have been processed by the indexing agencies. Let me clarify with an example. Let us calculate the impact factor for the journal Nature. Impact factor for this journal in 2017 was 1141.577. So how can we calculate the impact factor of Nature in 2017? It is simply equal to the citations of 2016 plus citations of 2015 divided by publications of 16 plus publications of 15. It means the publications of 15 and 16, which have the citations in 15 and 16 and give impact in 17, is actually reflecting in the impact factor of a journal. And it is 74090 divided by 1782, and it is 41.577. My dear friends, if you have pen and paper, you please note this formula and note the impact factor of Nature in 2017. We will use this figure in the next slides. Now it is a graphical representation how to calculate the impact factor. Look, impact factor is number of citation, which is red color, 100 citations in the 3rd year divided by number of publication in the previous 2 years. 40 publication in the 1st year and 60 publication in the 2nd year. So 100 by 40 plus 60 is equal to 1. So it is a simple example of calculation of an impact factor. Again, another example, 2017 impact factor is equal to 214 by 96 is equal to 2.22. So it is about impact factor, and which is given by Thomson-Reuters. Journal citation report is only responsible for indicating impact factor, and it is given to only those journals which are included in journal citation report. Now, another question is, what is CITE score? My dear friends, CITE score is another a very dynamic journal matrix which is going to be very popular, very acceptable globally. It is a term launched in December 16 by Elsevier, and it is an alternative to the generally used impact factors. CITE score of an academic journal is a measure reflecting the yearly average number of citations to the recent articles published in that journal. CITE score is based on, or CITE score is given to the journals which are indexed in Scopus. So while CITE score and JCR impact factors are similar in their definition, the definition is same. CITE score is based on the citations recorded in Scopus database rather than JCR database. And those citations are collected for articles published in the preceding 3 years instead of 2 or 5 years. Look, it is clear-cut difference. Two differences are visible there. Impact factor is from JCR database, CITE score from the Scopus database. Impact factor is giving reflection of 2 preceding years and CITE score gives reflection of 3 preceding years. If we want to calculate impact factor, this is graphical representation. The A is the citations received in the 4th year and B is the sum of the publications, number of publications in 3 preceding years. Means CITE score of 2015 value will be equal to A by B, where A is the citations received in 15 and B is the number of publications of 12, 13 and 14, right? Now, according to this formula, we calculate the CITE score of Nature for 2017. Recently, we have calculated the impact factor for Nature in 2017. Now calculate the CITE score. The formula of CITE score of 2017 is equal to citation 16 plus citation 15 plus citation 14 divided by publication of 16 plus publication of 15 plus publication of 14. It would be a huge number divided by this much number 7860 and the CITE factor is just 14.456. Are you surprised? I am a lot of surprised because the CITE score is very less than the impact factor of the journal Nature. Note that 2020 CITE score are reported in 2018. They cannot be calculated until all of the 17 publications have been processed by the indexing agencies. Now, what is difference? This is a tabulation by which I want to clarify the difference between CITE score and impact factor. The important difference in the definition of the number of publications or citable items, if you compare, the evaluation period for impact factor is 2 years, while for CITE score it is 3 years. The database for impact factor is JCR, Journal Citation Report. For CITE score, it is Scopus database. Access impact factor is accessible to the subscribers only, and the CITE score is accessible to anyone. Evaluated items, for impact factor, they evaluate only articles and reviews, while for the CITE score, they evaluate all types of paper. It may be editorial, it may be reports, it may be review, it may be book review, it may be whatever. So that's why the journal Nature had an impact factor of 41.577 and CITE score of 14.456. It is just because of a much larger denominator in CITE score. If you compare, the denominator in CITE score was 7860. It is a big number than in the JCR impact factor, which was just 1782. So my dear students, here I want to emphasize on the point that the journals which is indexed in Scopus is also good journal. If you are publishing your papers in Scopus index journals, it is also as good as you are publishing it in the SCI journals. And if you compare, if you genuinely and honestly compare, the calculation of CITE score is more complicated than the calculation of impact factor. And my dear students, if you are publishing a paper in a journal which is having, suppose, CITE score is equal to 1, I am sure you please believe me, its impact factor will be far more than 1. Its impact factor will be far more than 1. So please don't dishearten if your papers are not getting published in SCI journals. You please select good Scopus index journals and please submit the papers in those journals. Next question is, what is SJR? SJR is actually Simago Journal Rank. It is a measure of scientific influence of scholarly journals that accounts for both the number of citations received by a journal and the prestige of the journals where such citations come from. A journal's SJR is a numeric value indicating the average number of weighted citations received during a selected year per document published in that journal. And the SJR is visible for all. It is free of cost. It is freely accessible. You can see SJR of any journal. You just go to the website scopus.com/sources. It will allow you to compare multiple journals at one time, and across other metrics, the sources page on Scopus is freely accessible. Other important metrics are source normalized impact per paper and impact per publications. These two important metrics, SNIP and IPP, are also there at Scopus page. You can see all these information on the same page. So there are 3 highly worthy indexes. After all this discussion, I advise you to publish your papers in the journals which are indexed in Web of Science, indexed in SCI Expanded, and indexed in Scopus. The people, the senior people and the professors and authorities of different institutions, they will agree with me that at the time of NIRF ranking or at the time of NAC accreditation or other important and valuable accreditation processes, the papers published in Scopus index journals and papers published in SCI or SCI expanded journal having a good and critical role. They play a very important role in getting good rank and good, accreditation. Most of the universities prefer these indexes for research publications. All 3 indexes are highly worthy to publish with. So I advise you all who are listening me or who are here connected through this webinar, you please try to publish your work in those and only those journals which are indexed in either of these 3 worthy indexes. Rest other are all not very important and will not give you much to grow. Now, another important term is H index. The H index is an author level metric that attempts to measure both the productivity and citation impact of the publications of a scientist or a scholar. My dear friends, whenever someone want to hire you or someone want to promote you or someone want to consider your candidature for any specific post and promotion, they just go and see your H index. H index is actually based on the set of the scientist's most cited papers and the number of citations that they have received in other publications. Means the H index of an author is a clear-cut and very fair presentation of the credential and quality of that researcher and his publications and of its impact on others. how many numbers, how many times your papers have been cited by other publications. It is very important and give you a jump in your H index. So if we want to calculate our H index, it is the most highly cited articles which have been cited at least that much times. So there is, suppose H index is equal to 6. It means there are at least 6 papers which have been cited at least 6 times each. So your H index will be 6. It means measure at the author's level, H index is equal to number of papers H that have been cited H times. Right? So my dear friends, if you are publishing in good journals, if you are publishing in good journals and your papers are referring, people are citing your papers in their papers, in their future papers, you will get your higher H index. And when you are having your higher H index, you will have higher reputation. And that's why I advise you to please create your Google Scholar account. Your H index will be automatically start reflecting there. Another important index is I-10 index. It is also reflecting in your Google Scholar profile. It's another measure of credential, that reputation of an author / researcher. I-10 index refers to the number of paper with 10 or more citations. For the citations received and given in number of papers ranked in a decreasing order according to the citation received till now. Again, read this paragraph. It means I-10 index means the number of papers which received and given a number of papers ranked in a decreasing order which have at least 10 or more citations. Suppose out of your 20 publications, 9 publications are having 10 or more than 10 citations. So in that case, your I-10 index will be 9. So my dear friends, H index and I-10 index both are very important for an individual as well as for an institute, because your individual H index and I-10 index collectively enhance the H index of your university, of your institute, of your college. So my dear friends, please try to publish in good journal for the sake of increasing your H index and your I-10 index, and I am sure if you will be able to increase your H index and I-10 index, you will be able to achieve any goal in your research area. Now, come to the point, ethical misconduct in research. Actually, ethical misconduct means intellectual honesty. Ethic means intellectual honesty and research integrity. These two are the two most important research ethics. If you are not having intellectual honesty, or if you are not having research integrity, I am sorry to say you are doing not an ethical research. The federal definition of research misconduct is as follows. In all cases, research misconduct is essentially defined as FFP. What is FFP? FFP means simply fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. These three are the most unethical conducts, or you can say these three are the ethical misconducts which are mostly we observe in daily life. Being an editor, being a series editor, or being associated with a few journals in editorial capacity, I observe so many cases of fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism on daily basis. Other than these three, redundant publications is another ethical misconduct. Redundant publication means if you are duplicating or overlapping publications, you are producing duplicate or an overlapping publication. If you are selective reporting, the results which suit you, which are good for you, you are just reporting them, or you are not reporting the actual truth. It is called selective reporting and misrepresentation of data. It is another misconduct and is a misguiding activity. You can misguide the future generation of the researchers by selective reporting and misinterpretation of the data. By the deliberate omissions, it is another ethical misconduct. If you deliberately omitting few results, if you deliberately omitting some results and some observations, you are again doing ethical misconduct and you are again misguiding the future generation of the researchers. So all these ethical misconducts, we will discuss these misconducts later on wherever it is applicable during the process of writing a good research paper. So a very big question, after discussing all these important questions and answers of important questions, the big question comes is how to write a good research paper. If you find the answer of this question, first of all, we should find the answer of what is research paper. A research paper is a written and published reporting document describing original research results. It must be the first publication of original research findings. My dear friends, your research paper is the very first document which reveals about your research, which reveals about your observations, which reveals about your findings, in a form whereby peers of the author can repeat the experiments and test the conclusions, and in a journal or other source document readily available within the scientific community. It means research paper is a document which is showcasing your credential, your research, your original idea, your research findings, your observations, your conclusion. And on the basis of your research, anybody can repeat that work, anybody can work on it and find out the same conclusion. That is called a research paper. So always remember, if you start writing a research paper, I advise you few things before starting. You please avoid complex sentence structures. Please make small sentences. Use simple and clear English. And always keep in mind that the paragraph is the essential unit of thought. Try to start thinking in paragraphs. My dear friends, most of the people are in so hurry that they want to finish a research paper in just 2-3 sittings, in just a single go. It is not the way. It is not the right way to write a paper or to publish a paper. You please start thinking in paragraphs, and here the tagline of today's webinar comes in the existence, that poor experimentation cannot be masked by brilliant writing. However, poor writing can mask brilliant experimentation. My dear friends, this is the tagline which I always use in my lectures, which I always emphasize on these lines, that poor experimentation cannot be masked by brilliant writing. However, poor writing can mask brilliant experimentation. If you have done a good research, if you have done a brilliant research, but you are not able to write it properly, if you are not able to showcase it properly, or you are not able to publish it in a good journal, my dear friends, it is lost. It is just finished. Poor writing can mask brilliant experimentation. Your good research will be lost. So, to understand the publishing process, to know how to research a good paper, we should understand the scientific publication process. Actually, it is a team effort. It is a team effort, and there are three stakeholders. One is journal, second is author, third is reviewer. And it is quite visible from this graphic that there is communication between journal and authors. There is communication between journal and reviewer, but there is no communication between authors and reviewers. It means there is no communication between authors and reviewers. This is an example of double-blind peer review, right? This is a flow chart of publishing a paper, and I'm sure many of you are not able to understand this process. So let me simplify it for you. This is the process. This is a process of 10 steps. And my dear students, a good paper published in a good journal, it takes time. And the time may be from 6 months to 12 months, depending upon the reputation of the journal and the quality of your research work. So there are 10 steps. First step is author submit a paper. Second, editor assign a manuscript. Third, editor assign reviewers. Fourth, reviewers decide on whether to review paper and give the reports to the editor. Fifth, several reviewers inspect and edit your manuscript. Sixth, editor decides on accuracy of revisions and whether to accept paper. This is the step. The step 6 is the step where editor decides to accept or reject your paper. Seventh, if accepted, editor sends paper back to author with revisions. Eighth, author revises paper and sends it back. Ninth, possibility of second review process. And 10, paper get published. So this is the whole process. And during this process, this complete process, lot of things happened. Lot of opportunities you have to improve your writing, to improve your findings, to improve your presentation. And my dear friends, please don't get overwhelmed and please don't get stressed during publication process, because it is a time consuming and a process in which you have to put your hard work. So please break it down to step-by-step process. Time management is the most crucial but most important factor if you want to get published your manuscript in a good journal. First of all, write down all due dates. Second, break down the research process into steps, how you start writing. Then assign a due date for each step. It is very important point. Give the due date for every step of writing. Give time to write introduction part, give time to write experimental part, give time to write results and discussion. So assign a due date and specific time for every step. Then make weekly and daily priority lists. And please follow that routine of weekly and daily priority lists. Consult with your research guide at every step of writing. It is very important point, my dear students. Please don't ignore this point. This is the one and the foremost and most important point, that consult with your research guide at every step of writing. It will not only sharpen your writing skills, but also it will save your time, guide you properly, guide you insightfully, and because your research guide is having lot of experience, he will guide you properly how to write a good manuscript in minimum time and how to proceed it for publication in a good journal. So please don't miss this step and consult with your research guide at every step of writing. And most importantly, be strict with yourself. If you have given some dates to yourself, you have assigned some dates for your some specific step, you please be strict with yourself. Right? Now, let us see what are the parts of a research paper. In every research paper, whether it is from any domain of research, these are the parts of research paper, more or less, which are same: title, authors, abstract, keywords, introduction, materials and method. In many journals, it is called experimental. Results and discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, references. All these, and tables and figures with captions. These are the parts of research paper, and we must follow this sequence more or less, which is acceptable for all the journals. The highlighted points, the blue colored points, are much more important. We will emphasize on these particular points, but all the points, all the parts are very much important, and we will discuss. We start discussing it one by one. First of all, everyone want to, when he start with writing a paper, he start writing the title first, then name and authors, name of authors, affiliation, abstract, keywords, result and discussion, conclusion, and finally reference. My dear students, believe me, and I advise you genuinely, you please start writing backward. You please start writing backward. If you want to write a good research paper, please start writing backward. First of all, gather all the figures and tables you want to use. Then you write the methods and experimental. Then you write your results and discussion. And after writing your results and discussion, then you please write abstract. The abstract is the most important part of your paper. And after writing the abstract, then finalize the title of the paper. Because each section has a definite purpose. You know, title, first of all, we start with title. You know, title is your opportunity to attract the reader's attention. Remember, your readers are the potential authors who will cite your article, who will refer your paper, who may be your future contributor, who may be your future collaborators, who may be your future funders. It means the title must be very, very, very attractive. And this is your opportunity to attract your readers, the reader's attention. A good title can be defined as the fewest possible words that adequately describe the contents of the paper. This title should be defined as a set of fewest possible words, and which should be clear. By reading the title, anyone can judge the content of the paper. The title should not be very long and not be very short, and it not be very specific. My dear friends, it is very important to share with you. Please don't make a very specific title. Try to make titles simple and clear. not very technical, not very specific. Because whenever anybody else starts searching the literature on Google, they start their search with simple words, simple titles, not with the specific titles in which the technical terms involved. So it is my advice to you, please don't be very specific in title, does not contain any jargon and abbreviation. And if the involvement of abbreviation in title is indispensable, you please write full form of the abbreviation and then put the abbreviation in the bracket. But my sincere advice is not to use abbreviations in the title. Then authors. Authors should normally be listed in order of importance to the research. The list of authors should include those and only those who actively contributed to the research or experiments. I am again repeating this paragraph. The list of authors should include those and only those who actively contributed to the research or experiments. Here, my dear friends, I want to discuss some practices. As per the ideal practice, the author should normally be listed. The author should include as per their importance, as per their active contribution. But in regular practice, maybe you have also observed many cases. But I personally share with you that I have seen many cases in which the names of authors is like, the first name is name of guide, then second name is spouse of guide, means husband or wife of guide. Third name is guide's friend. Fourth name is friend's relative. And fifth name is name of scholar. My dear friends, it is very unfortunate situation. It is very unfortunate order of keeping the list of authors. In my opinion, the first name should be of research scholar, which has contributed in this research genuinely. And by contributing this research, he or she is going to achieve a degree or some achievement or some funding. Means first name should be of research scholars, especially during PhD courses. Second name may be of guide, may not be of guide or of any other contributing or corresponding authors, and other names in sequence may be as per the importance of their involvement and contribution. But first name should be of scholars. And I would like to share, I would proudly share here about the practice of my own university. We practice this, the papers in which the first name is of scholar is only considered for his or her PhD submission. So it is our regular practice. In all our papers, the first name is of our research scholar if it is meant for PhD or some other research projects. Because each author is responsible for the data given in a name, in a paper, and you cannot escape yourself in any case of misconduct. Another practice which I want to share with you, that you give your friend's name in your paper and your friend gives your name in his paper. It is regular practice. And you mutually you are putting each other's name in your papers just because of increasing your list of publication. But my dear students, note it down. It is not a joke. It is not an easy thing. Please don't take it as a casual happening, because You cannot escape yourself in any case of misconduct if found there. Suppose in that paper in which your name is included, suppose in this paper some misconduct is found, all the authors will be responsible. You cannot escape yourself at that time. So my dear friends, please be very specific. Don't put anybody else's name in your paper, and don't allow anybody else to put your name in their paper without any significant contribution. The name of person responsible for all the correspondence should be given clearly. Whenever you give the list of authors, you please specify the person and give his or her email ID who will be responsible for the correspondence with the journal. And the misconduct involved here is gift authorship. Whatever I have discussed here is called gift authorship. If you are putting anybody else's name in your paper without his significant contribution, it is called gift authorship. Or you are allowing someone else to putting your name in his or her paper, you are accepting gift authorship. So gift authorship is a misconduct and a serious misconduct, my dear friends. Please be cautious and don't accept gift authorship and don't give gift authorship. Authorship provides credit for an individual's contribution to a study and carries accountability. Normally, an author is an individual judged to have made a substantial intellectual or practical contribution to a publication and who agrees to be accountable for that contribution. Who gets authorship in a paper? These rules state that to be listed as an author, each researcher must meet three key criteria. There are three criteria to decide who gets authorship in a paper. One, they must have been involved in designing the project. Number two, collecting data or analyzing the results. Number three, they must have participated in drafting or revising the manuscript, and they must have approved the final published paper. If anyone who is fulfilling any criteria of these three will be eligible for authorship. You please note it down. These are three main key criteria for being an author in an individual paper. If anyone is fulfilling any one criteria of these three, he or she will be eligible for authorship. Now, another big question, that what is first author and what is corresponding author? And what is difference between these two and which one is more important? These are the questions. I'm sure these questions are in everybody's mind. Let me clear these doubts. First author is usually the person who has made the most significant intellectual contribution to the work. Here it is research scholar in PhD. In terms designing the study, acquiring and analyzing data from experiments and writing the manuscript. And corresponding author is usually the senior author. In case of PhD, the PhD supervisor will be corresponding author who provides the intellectual input and designs and approve the protocols to be followed in the study. He may or may not be first author. It means corresponding author may be or may not be first author, but it must be a senior author. Can first author be corresponding author? Yes, first author can be corresponding author, but first author is usually the student researcher who has undertaken the research work, while the corresponding author is usually the PhD guide who guides the PhD scholar. Otherwise, first author may be corresponding author and vice versa. But in my opinion, authorship is a big venue, is a big subject of conflict. And if you remember, and the senior professors will be agree with me, that in good journals, they demand a letter of giving no conflict of interest. And all the authors must sign and submit a letter in which they have to mention that there is no conflict of interest. Because we observe so many cases, being an editor, I have witnessed so many cases in which conflict of interest regarding authorship arises many times after the publication even. So please don't do this type of misconduct, and to resolve it, you please take a written agreement in which all the authors must write and sign that there is no conflict of interest, and we all are unanimously agree to submit this manuscript to this journal. It is the standard language which may save you from any future consequence. Now, who is more important, first author or corresponding author? As I told you earlier, that all the authors given in a paper, all are equally responsible. Practically, all are responsible, morally, legally, ethically. There is no escape. No escape. Everybody is responsible. But the first author is responsible for particularly carrying out the research, and the corresponding author is responsible for all the correspondences and comes up his intellectual input in preparation, revision of the manuscript. So, look, every author is responsible for the manuscript, but primarily the first author and the corresponding author are the most important and most responsible for a paper and the given data in a published paper. Now, the time to design an abstract. My dear friends, here we are discussing about the abstract which we normally submit with a paper, with a research paper. I am not, with all due regards, I am not discussing about the abstract which we submit in every second conference. I am sure you are getting my point. I have observed so many people who submit 5, 6 or more than that abstract in a single conference. And they are so genius, they are so brilliant, they are so intelligent, they can write any number of abstracts overnight, and they can submit those abstracts to any number of conferences. So my dear friends, I am not discussing about those abstracts. I am discussing about the abstract which you are going to put with your research paper, and the research paper which you are going to submit for publication in a good and reputed journal. Abstract is actually a miniature of the paper. It should stand alone. My dear friends, if I am not wrong, you all have experienced that in so many cases, you have just access of abstracts of various papers, of various journals. And by going through that abstract, you are able to know what is the gist of that paper, what is the crux of that paper, and you are able to refer that paper and you will study it, the complete paper. So abstract is an advertisement of your research. My dear friends, please believe me, if your abstract is attractive, if your abstract is appealing, if your abstract is giving and igniting some spark in the reader's mind and brain, that reader will definitely connect with you. That reader will definitely refer your work, cite your work, will try to contact you, will try to collaborate you. So a good abstract should not exceed 250 words. and should be in a single paragraph. It is the standard international practice. Do not use any reference here. In many cases, I observe authors start giving references from abstract section as well itself. If you start giving references from abstract section itself, it is not impressive and it is not advisable and it is not as per the standard practice. So please do not use any reference here. Or acronym should be used here. And again, I am repeating, if your abbreviations are indispensable, you please give the full form of that term and give the abbreviation in the bracket. Otherwise, please don't use abbreviations. Now, what misconduct involved here? The fabrication and falsification. FF, 2F, F square. These two very serious misconducts involved here. Fabrication and falsification means you have referred so many abstracts and you just fabricate your abstract on that guideline. It is called fabrication. Falsification means you have written an abstract with false statements, which are not your own findings, which are not your own observation, which is not your own conclusion, and you have drafted an abstract. It is called falsification. So my dear friends, my dear students, especially who are doing PhD, listen carefully. Please don't practice these two serious misconducts in fabricating and falsification of your abstract. And as I told you earlier, the abstract should be written after finishing the complete manuscript. Please don't write the abstract at very first stage. Write your abstract after finishing your complete draft. Write your abstract after finishing your complete manuscript. Because after completion of a manuscript, then only you will be able to find out its crux, find out its spirit. Abstract is your spirit. Abstract is actually the prana tattva of your research paper. So my dear friends, please write your abstract after finishing your manuscript. Now, keywords. I'm sure you all will be agree with me. Whenever you search something on Google, you put keywords. So the keywords must be simple. Select your keywords very intelligently. These 5 to 7 keywords are actually part of your abstract. And these 5 to 7 keywords should be related to your study and should be best to browse on internet. When somebody search your work related work, means those keywords are actually the torch. It is the torch which is guiding the reader towards your research paper. So your keywords must be selected very intelligently, and those keywords should be best to browse on internet. If a person who is interested or who is pursuing his research in your domain area can easily browse and reach to your paper. Now, the first and most important section is introduction. And from this section, you start referring the literature. You start using the references. You start citing the work of other researchers. So, in introduction, first you please give some background information Then state your purpose of study, why you are carrying out this study. And remember, don't write extensive literature review here. In my opinion, you just review the literature of last 5 to 10 years for putting in introduction section, because most recent latest references are more valuable references to connect with your study. Clear the aim of the study. In this introduction section, you have opportunity to state your purpose, you have opportunity to give clear aim of your study, and please don't discuss any result here. This section is not for discussing your results. It is not for the discussion of your findings. This section is only for connecting the people with the background of the research and bridge that knowledge with your purpose of study and your aim of study. So please don't start discussing your research here. And the misconduct involved is plagiarism. Most of the researcher, most of the authors do plagiarism in introduction section. They just copy the matter from other papers and paste in their introduction section. They just copy the references in the given sequence and paste in their paper as it is. So please don't plagiarize. Reviewing literature, it does not mean the cut, copy and paste. Reviewing literature means you please review the literature, you please review a paper and write the finding in your own words and then refer, then cite that paper. It is the best and standard practice. If you are just copying the matter from someone else's paper and just putting in your paper, it is simply plagiarism. And my dear students, you all are budding researcher or early career professionals. It is my genuine advice, it is my fair advice, being an editor or an elderly person, that please don't indulge yourself in plagiarism, because it is a misconduct for which you can pay many more things in future. You can pay a lot for it. So please don't do plagiarism. What is plagiarism? It is simply academic dishonesty. It is simply cut and paste. It is simply stealing and publication. If you are stealing and publication of other authors' language, thoughts, ideas, and expressions, it is called plagiarism. And it is an academic dishonesty. Also, it's simply copyright infringement and is a serious ethical as well as criminal offense. My dear friends, if you are indulged yourself in plagiarism, it is a serious ethical as well as criminal offense, and you may face the related consequences. Cutting and pasting internet material without taking prior permission from the original source is plagiarism, and it is subject to sanctions like penalties, suspensions, and even expulsions. Mind it, even expulsions. Recently, cases of extreme plagiarisms have been identified in academia. So it is very serious offense, and moreover, if you found guilty of plagiarism, you may be blacklisted. Please note it. It is a serious thing. You may be blacklisted collectively by most of the journals of your field and your area. just on one such case, just on one click. So please, please, please be very cautious. And here I want to remind you about the guideline of UGC that not only plagiarism, but self-plagiarism is also under scanner nowadays. If you are citing yourself again and again, repeatedly, you are copying and pasting your own work in your research papers, it would also be considered as self-plagiarism and self-citation. And my dear students, those papers in which you are using your self-citation, excessive self-citation, or excessive self-plagiarism, those papers will not be considered for any position, any or any other relevant weightage. So it's my sincere request that please don't indulge yourself in plagiarism. Now, the next section of a research paper is experimental. Experimental or materials and method, both are the same thing. In this section, you have to give exact technical specifications of the materials and tools used in the presented study. Describe what you did exactly. So you please describe what you exactly did. Then if you use some well-established method, it may be necessary simply to mention it by name or appropriate reference. And please don't use falsification here. You just mention what you actually carried out. Then results and discussion. It is the most important section of your research. This part of the paper is the most difficult and important, where you discuss your findings and data. So it should be very authentic. Here you share your findings, your observations, your result, and that your analysis, and point out the suggestions for the further study. Again, the misconducts involved here are fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. Need not to say again and again that you please don't indulge yourself in these misconducts. Then next section is conclusion. Conclusion is how you tell the people how your work is different and significant from others, because it's quite necessary to judge your contribution on certain merits and parameters. You please provide a clear scientific justification and significance of your research in this section. Suggest future steps, experiments, ideas, extension of the work, and please do not repeat abstract here. In most of the cases, people simply copy the abstract and put it in the section of conclusion. Please don't do it. Conclusion is the conclusion of the paper. Abstract is the crux of paper. Both the things are different and should be differently drafted. Acknowledgements. Useful helpers who do not qualify for authorship, you can acknowledge them. You can acknowledge technical and financial help. You can acknowledge material supply. You should obtain written permission from the individual concerned. Look, we people take it very casual. We acknowledge anyone else in our acknowledgement, and we allow everybody else to acknowledge ourselves in their findings, in their papers. But it is a serious business. I again repeat here, you should obtain written permission from the individual concerned, because if any contradiction found in a paper, the person who have been acknowledged will also be asked some questions. Next section is references. The style of writing references depends upon the guidelines of the journal. You please follow the guidelines. References should be relevant, latest, and actually concerned with the topic you are discussing. Avoid excessive self-citation. I have already discussed it. And use variety of references. Means your references must be books, chapters, papers, websites, newspapers, etc. Most important, do not claim more than you did. Do not generalize from one study or one result. Do not claim that because it worked well on a few test cases, that it will work well on all test cases, all platforms, and for all inputs. There are a few tips. Cover letter. It is your first chance to speak to the editor directly. So please write an impressive cover letter. Writing a small glance of your research is significance, brief significance of your research. It is your first impression. I must tell you, please use this opportunity very cleverly. Suggest some potential reviewers. It will help the editor to move your manuscript faster. So be prepared to suggest 3 to 6 potential reviewers for your manuscript. The reviewers should represent at least 2 regions of the world, and they should not be your supervisor or your close friends. Submission of paper. Make sure you have adhered to all of the formatting requirements of your mentor and submit your paper. Always keep a copy of your paper on file and in hard copy. Misconducts involved. Again, I am repeating, don't put duplicate manuscript. Don't do redundant publications. Please save yourself from these misconducts. Now, I'm going to conclude my webinar by last few 2-3 slides, that how to market your writings. If you have published a good paper in a good journal, you please mail about that paper to your contacts. You please use the link of that paper in your email signature. You please write about your paper on social media, on your personal blog, on your personal website. Discuss your work whenever you attend any seminar, any workshop, any conference. Refer your own work in your future presentations, discussions, and publications. But be aware about excess self-citation, right? So, my dear friends, be prepared for a writing process. Do not attempt to write a research paper overnight. This process takes weeks and months. And don't try to become a popular writer overnight. I conclude my talk with a wise words of Shri Gurudev, Shri Ravi Shankar Ji, that when your intentions are very pure and clear, nature brings support to you. Believe me, friends, when your intentions are honest, if your intentions are pure and clear, nature brings support to you. There is no way to get experience except through experience. Thank you very much for listening and giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. Thank you very much. I am stop sharing screen here.